Hi, I'm Dr. Ravinder. In this series of lectures on microprocessors and microcontrollers, today I'm going to discuss about the internal architecture of the 8085. The internal architecture describes the different components that are inside the package of the 8085. The topics that we'll be discussing in this video are 1. 8085, an overview of the complete internal architecture. Second, the 8085 internal register sets. Third, the address and the data buffers. Fourth, instruction register and the instruction decoder. Fifth, the arithmetical and logical unit. Sixth, the control and the timing units. Seventh, the interrupts and the serial communication interface units. So let's see them one by one. The physical appearance that we saw in the previous class of 8085 is seen in the figure. Here in the figure, the orientation when the notch kept up. So onto the left side, the pin number 1 to pin number 20, and onto the right side, pin number 21 to pin number 40. So in all, there are 40 pins on the 8085 external periphery, but internally these pins are connected to different blocks, different operational blocks or functional blocks. So what these different blocks are, so let us see them one by one. So start with the complete internal architecture of 8085 is described here in this figure, which consists of the different registers, the address and the data bus buffers, the timing and the control unit, the instruction register and the decoding unit, the ALU, the serial communication and the interrupt mechanism. So let's look at these different units one by one. To begin with, we have here in front of us all the different registers that are inside the 8085. And what these registers are and how these registers are used, let us see them one by one. You have two temporary registers called as a W and the Z registers. These are both 8-bit registers, but they are not visible to the programmer. The programmer can't use in manipulating the data or programming these registers. These are internally used by the 8085 in special circumstances. So what these circumstances are, certain instructions like exchange, like call. So during the execution of those instructions, these registers are used to hold certain values. In the case of call instructions, these are the addresses that are stored because the program has to transfer from one address to another address. So during this transfer, so one address is stored in 16-bit in the combination of these two registers. Likewise, during the execution of an exchange operation, you require a third operand when you write the program, but internally with the help of W and the Z registers, these exchange of the two operands will take place. So during those, this will help in us. So therefore, these two registers are not required to be programmed in any way by the programmer, but internally for those kind of operations like the exchange and the call, these registers will be automatically used by the microprocessor. So these two registers can be used in combination or in groups, or they can be individually used as a 8-bit registers. An example, if you are supposing exchanging 8-bit of data, so you require only one of them. So similarly, if you are exchanging 16-bit of data, then you require the use of both the registers. The second set registers is, or rather the general purpose registers is, you have 6 general purpose registers in 8085. These 6 general purpose registers are register B, register C, register D, register E, register H, and register L. These registers can be used in pairs as BC together as a 16-bit registers, or individually as register B and register C. Similarly, register DE can be used in pair as a 16-bit register, or it can be used individually as register D as 8-bit register, register E as 8-bit register. HL likewise can be used in group or in pair as 16-bit, holding 16-bit data or the 16-bit value. That is the address, or this can be used individually as register H and register L. So these 6 registers are called as a general purpose register. They can be used for any general activity to store 8-bit data or 16-bit data. But these registers also have specific meaning. Register B can be used as a base register. Register C can be used as a counter. Register D can be used as the data register to hold sometimes the port addresses. And register H and L, they can be used to point to the memory. Then you have a 16-bit stack pointer register. So this is a pointer register. This points to the stack area of the memory, and it always points to the top of the stack memory, so that any item which is lying at the top or in the stack, that can be read out. For storing into the stack, you need to increment the stack and store the data there. But finally, the stack pointer will always point at the top of the stack part of the memory. So if you retrieve something from the stack, so you retrieve, and after retrieving, the stack pointer is decremented so that it is pointing to the next item, which is the top of the stack. Another 16-bit register is a program counter. This program counter points to the address of the next instruction. Means while the execution of the current instruction is going on, so this register will contain the address of the next memory location or the address of the next instruction, so that some kind of speed up is achieved. Otherwise, we have to wait until the complete instruction has been executed and then update it or increment or decrement the address. So hence, in some sense, this register also helps in speed up, so that the next address is already known to the system, and the fetch operation from the next address can be taken on while the next current instruction is going on. So these 2 registers are called as a pointer registers. So in 8085, there are 2 pointer registers. These 2 pointer registers are the stack pointer registers and the program counter registers. Both are the pointers. They point to the memory. Program counter points to the instruction memory, and the stack or the stack pointer points to the stack data memory. Whereas there are 6 general purpose registers, register B, C, D, E, H, and L, and there are 2 registers which are internally used by the system. They are not available to the programmer. Next, we discuss about the address buffer and the data bus buffer. To communicate with the external world, either for the purpose of reading the data from the IO devices or from the memory, or for transferring the data, internal data of the microprocessor into the IO devices or into the memory. So you have the address and the data bus buffers. Data buffers are used to store temporarily the data that are read from the memory or the IO, or the data that is going to be transferred to the IO or the memory. The address buffer is a 16-bit address buffer which temporarily stores the address of the next instruction. So hence these buffers are nothing but the temporary storages, data buffers for the purpose of storing or reading the data into the memory and then transferring to the internal mechanism. And similarly for transferring the data to the outside world, the data is temporarily stored into the buffer, and when the devices are ready, the data will be read from these buffers. How these two buffers are connected internally to the microprocessor system can be seen here in the diagram. The address are unidirectional. Hence, the address buffer direction is outwards. So, the incrementer and decrementer, as can be seen here. So, this incrementer, decrementer, this is a 16-bit. So, it reads the data from the program counter. Program counter transfers it to these address latches after the address has been incremented or decremented for the address of the next instruction. And then this address can point to the address of the memory. Data bus buffer, unlike the address buffer, are the bidirectional. Since the data can be transferred out or the data can be transferred in, hence these buffers are bidirectional buffers. So they are basically some kind of storage. And what do they store? They store the data into the data buffers, or they store the address into the address buffer to point to the memory locations. Next is your instruction register and the instruction decoder. So what is the purpose of instruction register? The instruction register, as you can see, is a 8-bit register. It holds or it stores an instruction or the instruction code that is being read from the external world, that is from the memory. So if I say if I have a memory in this white space, on interfacing this memory, the next instruction pointed out by the address of the memory will be read into the data bus buffer, and then it will be transferred into the IR, instruction register. The instruction now is in the binary format. So the opcode is then transferred to the decoder unit, which decodes or finds out what is the meaning of that particular code. As when we listen to somebody, we don't simply react. After listening, we try to analyze what has been said to us. And depending upon what has been said to us, then we react or we answer to the question. Similarly, the instruction register simply receives the instruction which is in the binary format. And the operation code part of the instruction is then transferred to the instruction decoder. The instruction decoder tries to interpret the meaning, decode that instruction code. And depending upon the instruction decoded, then the output is transferred into the further units. So what do we say here, the purpose of the IR, instruction register? Instruction register is simply an 8-bit register which stores an instruction. Then the operation code part of the instruction is transferred into the instruction decoder. This instruction decoder decodes the instruction code or the operation code and then transfers that decoded operation code to the control unit so that the control unit can take appropriate actions to control the different parts of the microprocessor. Let us see the next unit. Once we have decoded the instruction, the next part shown here in the figure is the arithmetic and logic unit. It is a very critical part of it because the actual operations of arithmetic and logical in nature are performed by this ALU. So what are the components of this ALU? The ALU has inputs and it has an output. If you clearly see here in the figure, there are two inputs, and these two inputs come through the accumulator and the temporary resistor. That means before an operation takes place and how the operation will take place, the instruction is read into the IR where it has been decoded, and now we know, or the system knows, what is the operation to be performed. The ALU is set for that particular operation, whether it is addition, subtraction, ANDing, ORing, or some other kind of operations. So once the ALU has been prepared or set for a particular function, the data input data to the accumulator, one of the operand is assumed to be the accumulator. So 8085 assumes that always for two operands, one of the operand is always available in the accumulator. The second operand is transferred either from the registers into the temporary register. No separate command is given by the programmer to transfer the contents into the temporary register, but depending upon the instruction, automatically the other second operand will be transferred into the temporary register. So depending upon the instruction, then an operation is performed by the ALU. The result thereof is transferred back into the accumulator, from which it can be transferred either into one of the registers, internal general purpose registers, or it can be transferred to the data bus buffer by assigning an address back into the memory. Let's understand this again. Depending upon the instruction that has been read into the IR, upon decoding, the ALU is set for an operation. The two operands, one of them is read into the accumulator through the accumulator. The second operand is read through the temporary register. The result is transferred either back into the accumulator, from which it can be then transferred into the registers or to the external storage. So while the execution is going on, so depending upon the type of operation, there could be certain status flags set by the ALU. And these flags will indicate what has gone inside the ALU, what the ALU has done. Supposing the two numbers that the ALU was performing on was the addition operation. And let's assume that the numbers were such that as a +5 in the accumulator and -5 in the temporary register. When you add these two numbers, the accumulator will produce a result which is 0. So this status 0, that result has gone 0, will be stored into the flags. So flags are nothing but they are the indicators. They are some kind of indications to the programmer or to the user, so that the programmer can come to know and take decisions what is to be done when certain conditions arises. So we will focus on to the operation of the flag register separately in another video. So for this, for time being, we can just simply understand the function of this ALU as depending upon the instruction, ALU is prepared or set for that particular operation. Then it reads the operands through the accumulator and the temporary register, produces the result, which is stored back into the accumulator temporary storage, from which it can be stored back into the registers, which are the general purpose registers, or depending upon the instruction, it can be transferred back into the memory area. And as a result of operation, certain conditions or certain statuses can be set by the system into the flag registers. The next unit of the 8085 is the timing and the control unit. So this timing and control unit, as the name says, it provides necessary timing signals to all the units so that all the different units, they can function in some synchronism. They don't run out of the synchronism. When a particular unit is required to perform some operation, only at that particular instant of time that unit is active. At other time, when it is not required, other time instance, that particular unit will remain as disabled. So the purpose of timing unit is to provide some kind of synchronization for all the different units to work together. The purpose of the control signals is to set or reset each of the units. Let us suppose say that instruction register, upon decoding, it was found that it is a negation operation, it is a subtraction operation. And we know the 8085 performs the subtraction in the 2's complement addition. So the ALU is set for an addition operation. However, if the decoded operation was that of a AND operation, so the ALU will be set to perform an AND operation on these two operands. So the purpose of the control unit is to activate, and timing signals to they work in coordination. At particular instant, a particular unit is required to be activated. So the timing signals and the control signals both together, they provide some kind of activation signals to different units. So let us see this, since this is being a very critical part of it is 8085. Let us see what are those different signals available on this timing and control unit. As you can see, there is a provision for connecting the quartz crystal clock at the inputs X1 and X2. There is a clock out signal, which is part of the timing and control unit. There is a ready in signal, which is part of the timing and control unit. There is a read bar, write bar, ALE address latch enable, S0, S1, the status signals, IOM bar, another control signal, input output, oblique memory. When this pin is low, that means it is a memory related operation. When this pin is high, so this means it is an IO related operation. Then you have a hold coming as an input signal from the external devices such as a DMA controller, and HLDA is an external signal to devices like the DMA controller to intimate to the DMA controller, yes, I am ready to delineate the buses for you to perform certain kind of operations. Then you have a reset and reset out. So these are the different signals which are available on the timing and control unit. Next, we have the interrupt control unit and the serial IO control unit. So what is interrupt control units and the serial IO control units are? Any external peripheral, when it wishes to communicate with the 8085, it will communicate through these signals. These signals are the interrupts. In response to these interrupts, the 8085 will respond back through this INTA, which is called as a interrupt acknowledgement signal. So there are 5 types of interrupts: trap, RST 7.5, RST 6.5, RST 5.5, and RST interrupt INTR. Of these 5 interrupts, 4 interrupts are the vectored interrupt, and INTR is a non-vectored interrupt. And this pin INTA is called as an interrupt acknowledge. So the purpose of this interrupt control unit is to provide some kind of mechanism to the 8085 whereby it can allow the external devices to interact with the 8085 so that certain kind of operations can take place. The serial I/O unit is used for allowing serial communication with the 8085, either the serial input or the serial output. So when we combine all these blocks, the 8085 finally looks like this, whereas it has a set of registers. The set of registers contains the general purpose registers, the pointer registers, incremental and decremental. It also has the address in the data bus buffer. It has a instruction register and a decoding unit. It has a timer and the control unit. It has a ALU part. It has a interrupt mechanism, interrupt control unit, and the serial IO control unit. So this is all in the 8085 architecture summary. See you in the next video.